Hello everyone, and hello everyone, and I want to welcome you all to our webinar for today. So really appreciate you all joining, and so I want to thank you all for joining, and we'll be starting up in the next 2 minutes while we still wait for others to join. I have my colleague here, my co-host, and his name is Abiola. So Abiola, say hi.
Yeah, hello guys. Um, like Siri mentioned, just a brief introduction to get into tech, how you can start and everything. So we'll start in a couple of minutes and yeah, nice meeting you guys.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Abiola. And just few minutes, we'll kick off the webinar, right? So, yep. So, I guess Biola, we can actually kick off the whole process. Just 1 minute, please. See if I can do this. Yep. Okay. Oh. So kindly let me know if you can see my screen.
We can see your screen.
Yeah, so you all can see my screen, right?
Yes. Correct.
Yeah, so thank you very okay, nice. So
Yes, we
so
can see
kicking
your
this
screen.
off, and we're not going to take lots of your time. In the next 1 hour we should be done with this, right? So first of all, welcome to our webinar, and today we'll be speaking on building up a tech career in Nigeria, and the challenges and rewards that actually comes with it. So first of all, we're going to talk about the motivation that actually allowed us, me and Biola, to sit down and try to bring this to try to educate others that are actually trying to navigate their way to the tech space, right? So we discussed about it, and we deem it fit that most of the struggles that we actually pass through, we want to be able to help individuals, right? If individuals are trying to learn new things in tech, becoming a programmer, becoming a cloud engineer, becoming a server administrator, becoming a technical writer, just any of the tech areas you're trying to establish yourself on, right? So we want to build a community whereby we can actually help individuals to get the right tools, understand the ecosystem, understand how the system is being, how the whole process is being designed, and give you a different mindset of what you're bringing into the tech space, right? Give you a different mindset to understand what you're coming to experience in the tech space, right? So we actually narrowed this down to Nigeria as a whole, since we are Nigerians, and try to motivate and also try to help others that are trying to come into this whole tech space, right? So me and Biola will be your host for today. And if you have any questions, please, if you have any questions, drop your questions on the chat or channel, and at the cost of questions and answer Q&A, we'll pick this question and we'll be able to answer the ones that we can answer because of time. So I promise, one other time we'll be leaving this training, right? So Biola, are you still here?
Yeah, hi, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Siri. So, like Siri mentioned, the aim of this webinar is to educate people on the challenges that we have faced in the past when getting into technology. So, if we go into each and every one of us experiences in the past, so for me, as an example, I come from an engineering background. As a mechanical engineer, you would expect that um, I wouldn't be a DevOps engineer, but finishing school and the next thing, which the next part which I found myself in was getting into technology. So I started as a developer, and from there I migrated into support, then from support into becoming a DevOps engineer. So everyone's path when it comes to technology is quite different, yeah. And when your path is different, it doesn't mean that the goal cannot still be the same. So I'm sure if we look at everyone on this call, we probably come from different backgrounds. Some don't come from a science background. some come from art, some come from commercial. Some are not even educated. You don't need education to get into technology. You just need to have basic computer skills for you to be able to start this. So personally, I would say if you are starting the journey in tech, the first thing you should do is you should just have this bit of determination that yes, I'm going to go through with this, and from there anything will be possible. So thanks. Great, Siri.
Yeah, thank you very much for that brief talk, Biola. And so we're kicking this off. So like what we talked about at the first point when I was actually trying to talk on the introductory part of the webinar and the motivation behind it. We talked about people trying to come into tech and also being able to help them to find the right path to know what they have to learn and what they don't have to learn, to know their capacity of what they can carry and what they cannot carry, and being able to help them choose the right course. Because one of the challenges I know, of my experience being in the field for a while, one of the things I noticed is them not being able to choose the right field and being able to understand what this field is all about, right? So you understand today in Nigeria that the tech space is actually increasing rapidly, and most times is moving. I won't say it's moving. Is each area in tech currently is growing in terms of cloud engineer, software developers, programmers, front end, back end, technical writers, QA, quality assurance, project managers, and all these areas are cyber security and the rest of them, right? All these areas are different areas currently in Nigeria that I still deem fit as they are still in the starting up stage, right? What I mean is starting up stage, I feel we have not been able to exhaust our skills in these areas when it comes to cloud engineering, when it comes to programming, when it comes to DevOps, when it comes to infrastructures, when it comes to server maintenance, when it comes to programmers, when it comes to software developers, right? I feel we are still growing here in Nigeria. So if you as a person should be able to pick one of these areas and learn and train yourself, learn on it, reach out to different people that have actually excelled in this field, you should be able to grow yourself, right? And being able to be one of the forerunners of these technologies in Nigeria, right? So what are the question we ask ourselves, what are the challenges that someone can face in starting this career path, or starting a career in tech, right? What are the challenges you face? And definitely we know in Nigeria, you have currently different limitations or different
Yep.
challenges. One, like yes, Biola, one is we know infrastructural limitations, right? Infrastructural limitation where we have different sector that are actually using technologies, right? Like Biola, if you remember we start up with Tech Expert, right? Where we are able to learn and being able to support Microsoft staffs, right? And when we are doing in Tech Expert, if you remember very well, if you remember vividly, Tech Expert was the only platform in Nigeria then that can give you the avenue to train, to learn, and also to work, right? They accept
In a
you
multinational.
with your yeah. It was a multinational company. They accept you with what you currently are, and they train you, right? They train you for like 2 months, and they give you out to Microsoft, and you support Microsoft customers, right? So Tech was the only company actually doing that in Nigeria, and which most of us currently as cloud engineers are actually enjoying currently. So Biola, you remember, Biola, if you can actually talk about the what society actually expects from individuals when you go to
Yeah.
school, and what they expect from you and the rest of them.
Yeah. So for me, I'll personally give an example. Generally, if you want to get into tech, like Syria has mentioned, so we had the opportunity of having a platform that was willing to educate us and give us that stepping stone. Yeah. But if you are coming in as a newbie, you have to be able to understand that there will be a lot of challenges. So one of the challenges I faced when I was going in was I was basically going all the way, doing interstate every day, trying to learn technology at the beginning when I started. It was quite hard. Sometimes I'll get home around almost 12, leave again at 4 a.m., just trying to learn and become the best possible version of myself. So if you are getting into technology today, you just have to have it in mind that, oh, okay, for the next 6 months, for the next 1 year, that I'm going to take a huge stab at this, and I'm going to give my possible best, even as at now. So in my current role, I work as a senior DevOps engineer, yeah. But even as a senior DevOps engineer, there are new technologies that you have to keep up with. You have to still be able to learn. So for instance, recently I found myself delving into OpenStack with an Azure background. At that point in time, you would say, oh, okay, I'm already at this stage where I know a lot, but you still have to be able to push yourself to that level where you would be able to be a self-starter and be able to say, okay, I'm going to learn this technology and be able to deliver. So one of the problems I see a lot, so I was mentoring someone a while back, and the person mentioned he doesn't know where to start. Doesn't know where to start. So that's a typical problem that people usually face. Oh, I don't know where to start. Do I become a data scientist? Do I become a programmer? Do I become a DevOps engineer? So I see that as questions that basically need a bit of research, because the way the world is now, if you are coming to meet, for instance, Siri in Siri Cloud, okay, I want to learn technology, you have to be able to have your parts. If you want to become a data scientist, you have to be able to do the groundwork. No one can be able to push you from step A to step B. You have to take that step. Then when you now get to the level where you need to upskill, then you can now get guidance, because nobody's going to teach you tech from letter A to Z. That's not possible. Everyone has to be a self-starter, and also, and the rewards are quite wonderful. So I would say when I started tech, I started for free. So unlike Siri, I started I started for like the first 6 months after graduating with mechanical engineering. Then afterwards to 15,000, then to 40,000 that they weren't even paying. All these monies, they are not things that, would motivate you to get into tech. So people think getting into tech is a quick fix. And that is a real, so when people find out that they've been into tech for 3 months, 4 months, and they are still doing internship, still wearing bad shoes and everything, they get demotivated. So what you just have to realize is you have to put in full dedication for like the parts of your journey that are still in the nurturing stage. So once you're able to have that determination, you will be able to go through most of the challenges. For instance, I have a friend, Femi. I don't know if Femi is on this call. So Femi graduated from as a mechanical engineer. And from mechanical engineering, he's done a lot of jobs. He has been an assistant. He has worked in several states and everything. But when we still came into Tech Expert, I do remember, I always say this, that anytime we're in training, we realized that Femi is not reading anything. And in training, he was always the most successful because he was literally the most determined at that point, because he was always trying to upskill. But when you see Femi is not serious. I wish he's on this call. If you see Femi is not serious, but Femi is always trying to upskill to the extent where he's at the top of like every single thing that he's doing. If he's deciding that he wants to learn Azure, Femi can decide to put in 6 months of his life to master that technology. And it's quite important that you have to have that zeal to be able to master any technology that you're putting yourself in. And there are a lot of rewards. So some of us have testimonies of times 50 increments in salaries. Some of us have times 20, some of us have times 10. So it's not going to go from like 0, you don't know anything, then a multinational is going to come for you and pay you 5 million. It's not possible. That's not going to happen. You are going to have to learn the basics. That is from the algorithm stage. If you are a developer, for instance, you have to know the basic algorithms. You have to be able to do some boarding. You have to be able to do live coding. You have to be able to understand what you are doing for them to be able to employ you too. Because obviously, if you want to work for a US firm, there are people in the US that know this thing more than you. Let's even be clear. So you have to you have to make yourself get to that stage where you are almost a master of your technology. And that's what we are trying to start with this conversation. So yeah, I think that's it for me. In terms of navigation in the tech space, one thing that is quite important is knowing where to start. One tool that I always recommend to people, which is a third-party tool, so use at your own risk, is roadmap.sh. So with roadmap.sh, you can easily go to roadmap.sh, check whichever technology stack that you want to get into. For instance, if you want to become a DevOps engineer, you want to learn the Azure field, everything you want to learn. There are broken down pieces where of each technology you can learn. So if you go to DevOps, you run away, because under DevOps, you see Python, you see so many technology and each of those technologies, if you really want to learn them, it's probably take like 6 months each. But that shouldn't be a discouraging factor, because someone in technology, you have to learn every day. So I think that's it for me. Siri, come on.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Abiola, for that brief explanation, right? And one thing I want to talk about society expectations, right? I know when we're growing up back then, we have our fathers telling us to become lawyers, to become doctors, to become engineers, right? And for mine, I'll say it on the score. Mine wanted me to become a lecturer, right? And I always tell the story. Mine wanted me to become a lecturer, and when I was doing my master's to the extent, and I had my job in Tech Expert, then he still called me back to say I should go back and do PhD. I said, no, father, I ain't doing that, right? I have a passion to chase. I have somewhere I'm going, and at the end of the day, it is what it is, right? So your passion actually still matters a lot in this journey of tech, right? If you feel you're coming into it just because you see Abiola making a lot of money from tech, and you want to make that money he's making in the next 3 months, man, it's going to be crazy, right? Because you're going to put yourself in a level where you're going to put yourself in a level where you cannot feel comfortable, right? So I feel first you put a passion. Your passion should be there in the whole journey of tech, right? Then the other thing we're going to talk about, we're talking about the rewards, right? If you first of all understand these limitations, understand what comes with it, how are you going to build on those limitations? Like what we talked about, we said infrastructural limitation, where we don't have enough hands and enough infrastructure to actually grow the whole ecosystem, right? So when you learn these things, you feel you'll be among the few that are actually will be among the few that are actually knowledgeable, and you'll be called upon whenever there's an issue. And once you call upon, they pay for your skills, right? And those are one of the rewards you actually gain in this tech field. So navigating through these areas is now understanding the challenges, understanding the reward, and understanding where you have to come in, right? What you have to learn and how do you have to learn it, right? So yeah, so we talked about some of the challenges, and for the infrastructure issues that we know in Nigeria today, we know power outage is one of them. Internet connectivity is one of them. The impact on remote work right? So I will call Abiola. Abiola will talk about the challenges that we're experiencing in Nigeria when it comes to infrastructural end. Then I'll talk about the rewards. Then we have a discussion on the sorry. Then we'll have a discussion on the navigation on how to navigate the whole area. So Biola, you talk on the infrastructural issues.
Oh yeah, so as a newbie in tech, I think one of the biggest problems that you're going to face is infrastructural issues. What do I generally mean by this? So you need stable internet. It's quite important because you're going to learn from resources like YouTube, free code camp, stuff like that. And where you're learning with those internet stacks, they are not basically developing the technology for Nigeria in the sense that they don't expect that when you're reading, they'll take lights. That's a huge problem. And if you are not determined, for instance, you would give up. So for me, I think I found it easier because I had support from my family and people around me that care. Because it's not easy if you graduate and you have to survive. And when you have to survive, you generally don't think about, okay, the next thing I want on my mind is to learn technology. So the challenges may include power outages, internet connectivity. So internet connectivity is a huge problem because if you are earning nothing, how is it possible that you're going to be able to be dedicating a lot of your internet on learning, which is not bringing anything? It's not bringing anything at the moment. So and remote work, like in the slide, one of the challenges that we have in remote work, I don't know if you remember, there was a time there was downtime in the whole of Nigeria where most of the major internet providers were down. As a remote worker, that in itself is a red flag. So things like that are huge challenges that we face.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So
another problem generally is quality education. With quality education, so there's a problem when it comes to this one is a huge problem, and that's where we want to come in. Because even from the university stage, I don't know how many of you were taught Fortran and you know useless things that we're never going to use. So basically, I studied for 5 years as an engineer, and I didn't graduate as an engineer. I just graduated as someone that knew maths. So if you are planning to go into, for instance, the university today, I think the most important thing you have to do is to determine that, okay, I'm going to go to the university, but I'm also going to make a direct impact on my own skills because most university graduates today are unemployable. I was unemployable when I graduated. As a mechanical engineer, there was nothing I knew. If you give me maths, of course, I can work in Access Bank, GT Bank, calculate money as a cashier and things like that. But in the real world, if you give me fluid mechanics and stuff like that, I won't be able to. So most people have this idea that they need to study computer science to become tech guys, or it's like the colloquial word tech guys. But that's not true. You can study anything. It's something that you can learn on your own. I've worked with people that have been developing since they were age 9, age 10. They were age 9, age 10, and it was really tough. It's really tough competing with those kind of people because all their life they've dedicated their um, growth into tech. So for someone like me that for most of us that are approaching that are above our 20s, it gets harder. So for this question, which is what is your advice for 30-year-old who just finished his CNA and are getting frustrated, looking for a remote role? Sorry, they are getting frustrated looking for remote roles, engineering background, and can start from an intern with tech expert due to responsibilities. So in this kind of instance, I think the most important thing here is you just have to be a self-starter. So this problem, a lot of people are facing it because you have to be able to combine making money with also learning. Because you find yourself in roles whereby while you are being paid, you are not improving. So there was a role I did before Tech Experts where I was working as the tech guy in quotes in a law firm. And all I was doing basically was changing LAN cables, helping them check if their internet is working and stuff like that. So for someone who is already experienced, so it's actually wonderful that you have CCNA. That's the first step. When you have CCNA, that's a very wonderful first step because it makes you look more employable. And to be honest, Tech Experts is not the only place to start. There are so many firms. So one thing which people fail to realize is the power of their resume. So people don't assess their resume to the extent where it should be. That's why a lot of people struggle to get remote roles. You see people saying, they want to get remote roles, even people with experience. And when you see their resume in your mind, you'll be like, this resume, it can never pass my house because it's really bad. So there are sites like resumeworded.com. If you check resumeworded.com, that's the first thing I'll say. So first look at your CV, Resume Worded. I've forgotten the exact URL, but it's something like Resume Worded. So you can be able to access your resume. So my first job, for instance, when I put my resume and I analyzed it, I found out that it was rated 30 something over 100. If I don't know if you remember the name of this tool that used to filter resumes. There's the name of the tool that filter resumes. I forgot the name of the tool, but anyways.
I've forgotten, but I know. Yeah. You said what?
ATS.
Someone.
Yeah, exactly.
ATS.
Yeah, yes. ATS. Yeah, exactly. So there are ATS tools. So if you cannot pass that first stage of passing that stage of the ATS, the filter, they are going nowhere because you first have to pass that stage. So for instance, if we are 30 on this call and 30 of us send resumes, at that stage, they don't know my capability, they don't know your capability. At that point, they only know, okay, these are 30 resumes. They'll first filter by you that you have a resume with stupid typographical errors, you'll first go out. The second resume that is not even related to that role, for instance, you're applying for a role at, say, Siri Cloud now. You're applying for a role as a senior DevOps engineer, yeah? And they want to use GCP. And on your resume, everything that is there is probably Azure related. You have eliminated yourself from that first stage. You may know more than me, but you have eliminated yourself. So I think the first key thing for you is maybe even away from learning, while you're learning, you need to also try and perfect your resume, make it presentable so you can be able to filter through the first stage. I can assure you, you can get to some technical interviews where you don't know anything, but the attitude which you put into what you're doing can get you the job. My first interview at Tech Experts, I basically was the least qualified. Everybody came with suits and everything. I was just there looking at everybody like, I don't die. Why? Because when you look at people, you can easily get intimidated. But when I got into the interview room, I met two people. One of them was like, oh, okay, at least you know what you're doing. I started learning Azure at that point. So when I got in, I asked them that, how far all those guys that actually interviewed on this day, why didn't you take them? I was like, those guys, they just lie for their resume. They no fit, whatever. I wanted that job. It was more or less like my SAPA eradication plan. So I needed it at that point. So if you can be able to work on your resume first of all, then you can also go for self-improvement. So self-improvement, you don't need to, I know sometimes you can pay for courses and everything, but there's nothing you want on this earth that you cannot find on YouTube. I'm sure Siri will not be happy I'm saying this, but there's nothing you want on this earth that you cannot find on YouTube because YouTube has everything you want. So when it comes to improvement, if you want to learn basic networking, these 7 layers, things like there's nothing you cannot learn on YouTube. And when you go into interviews, those are the things they'll be asking. They want to know your core knowledge because anybody that is employed, they are still going to be trained. Most jobs, at least like 90% of jobs, you're still going to be trained. You're going to have like a partner. So I think for me, that is what you can keep doing. First of all, focus on your resume. Secondly, try and start improving yourself on the basic technologies. If you know that, okay, you are with CCNA and you want to be a network engineer, you have to first of all focus on mastering those networking skills. For instance, you shouldn't go to an interview and they should ask you, what's the transport layer? What's the application layer? And that is what will be eliminating from an interview. If they should ask you serious technical questions and you fail in those ones, then you know that, yes, I actually failed based on my technical ineptitude. But if you get to an interview and you see that, oh, okay, what I actually failed here is something that I could have actually gotten, then you would be filled with regret. And all of us have been there at one point in our life. So I think those are the things that are in your control at this point. What is in your control at this point is self-improvement, learning from YouTube. You can go to roadmap.sh and check maybe for a network engineer role, these technologies and the skills that you need to learn. So since this is a broad course, we won't be able to present you with each of the individual learning paths. So I think you can communicate with us if you actually need that. But find what you want to do and find out your why and how you can be able to learn those skills. So that is the basics of those skills. Then your resume. Then the third thing is just you have to still keep your work. So you have to, your timing. Time is another issue. If you have kids, it's a problem because you have to be able to take care of your kids. Your child will not hear that, oh, okay, I have a child, I want to read. Your child will still come and disturb you. I have nephews. So when I'm with my nephews, I understand how it goes. So those are the three things that you need to consider from my own perspective: time management, your resume. Your resume is the most important thing. Forget everything else. Your resume is the most important thing because once you can get to the HR stage, someone like me, I like talking. So I'm always good with HRs. Now, technical stage, I always feel I feel at technical stage is a lot. But because I can always get through the stage where I can get to that technical stage, I have a chance. But if you cannot get to that technical stage, you're already out of it. So I don't know what Siri can add to this. I like talking, so yeah.
Yeah, you have actually talked a lot when it comes to the quality of education and training, right? So, one thing I noticed in those of us, even those of us that read computer science back then in school, I won't say most of our curriculums are outdated, right? I would just say, I won't say they're outdated. So I would just say they give us the foundation, right, to be able to learn what we're meeting in the future, right? When I mean the foundation, just imagine you as a software developer, right? You did a QBasic, right? You did Fortran, you did a QBasic and Fortran, the C sharp, right? Back then in school. Those different programming languages, they are actually not in use today, right? But they can give you the foundation of understanding different concepts of writing programs or developing an application, right? So you build on those things and you grow yourself with it. My only issues with our curriculum back then in school is the timing when those courses are being trained, right? If at 100 level, I'm still doing mathematics, my whole 100 level, I'm doing mathematics, right? Then my 200 level, I'm doing introduction to computer science. I feel that is already creating a lab. That has been a lapses on the whole curriculum, right? So I feel there should be, at 100 level, introduce me to the course I'm going for, right? I understand what computer science is, what a computer is, the different parts of a computer, the different application you use your day-to-day you use your day-to-day activities, right? Understand those things. That's what I feel should be done. So one thing is our local institutions, they are outdated. Yes. Then also, even to the extent the training center we attend. So I know some of us, we can't actually do our personal training, right? So we like going to centers to train ourselves, for someone to train us, right? Okay, Bella, I'm coming. You like going
No,
to
I wanted
centers
to
for
say
someone
something,
to.
Siri.
Okay.
Someone asked a question about his advice for a 30-plus-year-old, a 30
Yes,
years old.
I will. Yeah, there's a time for Q&A, so we'll come to that.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll come to that at the Q&A. So if you have your questions, just drop your questions on the channel and on the chat. Then at the due time we'll come and we'll answer your questions, right? So we talked about certification training, right? Some of us we can't do self learning, right? So we like going to centers and get trained, right? And I know a friend of mine still on this call, right? He was a trainer. He can testify to this. They can just pick somebody that just have knowledge, and they'll pay the person to come and train you. So the person starts reading documentations for you without having a practical knowledge of how those things work, right? And that is also a limitation, and it's also a challenge when it comes to quality training and education, right? Then also we talked about the limited internet access and online learning, right? So I know most of us, we don't have money. We want free trainings. We want free webinars. We want, definitely, there is a sacrifice to everything, but definitely there are training that are cost effective, right? That you can actually pay for, that you can actually enroll for, right? It's just for you to get yourself networked with the right people. So I think the next thing, so Biola, you're going to go through with the challenges, right? So why I go through the rewards. So the challenges, one of them is economic instability, right? You know, today dollar and naira has been like this. Has been good, and people like Biola, they are happy, but definitely it's a story for another day. So Biola, you can go ahead. Don't be like
One of the biggest economic challenges, I don't know what she was saying, but one of the biggest economic challenges is SACMA, or how do we put it? Because at the end of the day, when you don't have money, learning is not even interesting, to be honest, because when you're hungry, as it's going through your head, that's the part you just said. But one thing we just have to consider when considering when taking into consideration the economic instability is the fact that you have to just decide within yourself. Are you going to suffer today or suffer forever? Because we are all suffering today. We are all going to suffer today to be able to have a better tomorrow. And in terms of economic stability, job security is a big issue. I remember during COVID, a lot of people were laid off during COVID, for instance. That is something that you cannot account for. So if you want to, for the second point, startup funding, if you have a startup today and you're looking for money, you'll sweat, because you have to either have a very excellent idea, or you have to be able to do the legwork. So because while people were really willing to sponsor startups a lot in the past, till now they still are. But if you are limiting yourself to the Nigerian space, there are problems. So we've seen people that have presented ideas to banks, that the banks, sorry that there are bankers working, that are bankers on this call, that the banks would rip off the idea and actually start the idea for themselves rather than them sponsoring the idea. I've actually experienced this live with someone that I know. So there are different things that can happen when it comes to, for instance, startup funding, looking for funds. So your IP, whatever you have, first of all, you have to learn how to be able to protect it while you're looking for funding. Maybe everybody, they should say, okay, well, this is what I want to do. So there are things that you have to do. Then there's currency volatility. The 200K that you were collecting 5 years ago, that if you save for 5 months, you'll be able, or let's say for 10 months, you'll be able to buy more. Now that's 100K. Even if you save for how many years, 5 to 10 years, you may not get the car of your dreams. So things are getting harder, and those are the things that you still have to, those are challenges that you have to consider. So Siri, I think we can go to the rewards. Just not for time.
we still have some more
So
challenges.
like limited startup funding. In terms of Nigeria, there's a lot of global attention, but at the same time, we have this bad political landscape where people are scared of doing business in Nigeria. So that's why we have this Japa phenomenon, because when people are traveling, not because they don't love the country, but because they love themselves. I mean, why would you remain in the country where you have the opportunity to live and improve your life? You get? So that's why people are leaving. So there are challenges, those challenges that you're facing in real life, those are the same challenges that you would be facing when it comes to looking for startup funding. So limited funding, early stage startups struggle to get funding. Getting the first round of funding is always the biggest part. Once you get the first round, the second round, third round, do things like that, you start getting better and people will start knowing your product. There are people on this call that are more experienced when it comes to startup funding. Benga or Jamo is quite a wonderful expert when it comes to startups. Then there's risk aversion. So investors are actually very careful with their funds. If you come and meet someone to invest, they would want to know the possible risk factors that you have. Then limited funding can also hinder your growth. So if you had planned that, for instance, you grow 60% between year 1 to year 2, if you don't have funding, it's not possible. So those are the little challenges that you can get as a startup founder. What's next? Yeah, so I also talked about economic, cultural and societal expectations. So for me, when it comes to cultural and societal expectations, I think the major things you have to have in mind when it comes to this is yourself, yeah, because there's gender gap in tech. It's quite obvious. Like for instance, in most teams you see 8 guys, 1 girl. But I think the problem is more from the foundation. So even for instance, in my department in school, we had 42 guys, 1 girl, mechanical engineering. The next department, the one beneath me, had no girl. So right from a young age, we've been cultivated to believe that women should be in a particular sector. But if you go to customer service in Zenith Bank, 90% will probably be females. So if you look at everything from when we were little, we have been wired to understand that there are certain roles, there are gender roles when it comes to work. I don't know if gender roles is the right word. So if you are a lady coming into tech at the beginning, so I will tell you for one that if you are a lady and you are equally as qualified as, for instance, say Siri, and you go to the same interview, the way the world is going, most likely you would get the job if both of you are equally qualified, interview the same way, every factor is the same because of equality, there's a lot of equality going on. So even guys at this stage now, as a guy, you have to actually also put in the effort because there's nothing like in the world today, everyone wants to give yeah, go ahead, Siri.
Okay, so I just want to drop something on that gender gap, right? So even if there is gender gap in terms of in the whole tech ecosystem, right, there are still some few females that are actually doing very good, right, in this ecosystem, right? A few of them, ladies that are taking up the mantle to actually do something, and I know we have come across a lot of them. Like I still make reference to Tech Experts. I still make reference to Tech Expert when we're in Tech Expert. Then think in our team of identity, we have a team of how many? We have a team of close to 50 engineers and just 5 ladies, right? And we can actually testify that those 5 ladies are doing wonders when it comes to that. When it comes to day-to-day troubleshooting in the team, right? So what I would say is, as a lady, don't see yourself as a lady, don't see yourself as don't see yourself that you cannot do something, right, in the tech field, or the tech field is for just guys alone. So as a lady, if you take up the mantle, one thing I always tell myself is what you believe you can achieve, right? So if you can take up the mantle and tell yourself, this is what I want to be, or this is what I want to become, this is what I want to learn, definitely you should be able to achieve it. Subiola, you can go on.
Yeah, thank you. So, but as a guy also, you cannot be seeing societal expectations and think, oh, okay, women are this, so I would either give up. Or you also have to work as hard because nowadays a lot of companies. So if you read a lot about what Elon Musk is saying, the amount of equality based employment are actually reducing. Now people want to start employing based on competence. So I think in terms of cultural and societal expectations, the main thing now is you yourself, like what you yourself bring to the table. If you are the best developer on earth, I can assure you 99% of people or 99% of companies will want you, whether you're a man, a woman, or I don't know, any other sex. So at that point in time, every firm would want you if you are the best at what you do. So that's the only thing that you should have in your mind when it comes to tech space. I know in other spaces, there are a lot of issues, but when it comes to tech space, it's actually important. So when we are talking about regulatory and bureaucratic hurdles, there are a lot of problems. So for instance, number one, I don't think it's over here. If you want to work remotely in Nigeria, there's a huge issue. So there are companies like Zero and others that are making it easier, Payoneer, blah, blah, blah. There are things like that make it easier. But most times when you're working remotely, you have to end up being employed as either an independent contractor or you're on a B2B contract, or maybe B2C, or whatever it is, because most of those countries cannot actually employ in Nigeria. They're only employing you at that moment because there is nobody in that role in their country that can fill up that role, or maybe there is, but they've not found. So when it comes to taxation, you need to understand the tax regulations and everything. So not the one that you see, you are employed 30,000 per year. You think that 30,000 is coming to your hand. You cry. But all those kind of things, you have to have it in your mind that, okay, regulatory bodies are quite important. You have to pay your taxes. Things like that are important, especially when you are in the Western countries, because they'll come back to haunt you eventually. When you have a business registration is also quite important. I talked about IP as well as bureaucratic orders. So you have to be very careful with your IP, because people are there in the tech space. There are a lot of hyenas willing to steal your ideas. So you have to be really careful about that as well. Next, please. So for the rewards, Siri, go ahead.
So thank you very much, Biola, for throwing more light on the challenges that you're going to face when it comes to the whole journey into tech, right? So I'll be talking on the rewards and what you're going to gain when you have actually learned a lot and you master of your skills, right? So first thing is job opportunities, right? So but job opportunities, where you have the right skills and you have the right, not just the right skills, you have the right skills, you have the right mindset, and you have same cultural belief in the same company you're trying to get a job from, right? So if those things are all combined together, definitely you get a job opportunity. When I mean job opportunity, you have job, like some of us are working remotely. We're in Nigeria and we're working for different companies outside the country, or definitely remote work also determines if you're still in Nigeria and you're working for companies like Sterling Bank and you're working from home, right? Those are still remote work, right? So when you have these these skills and these skills, right, you should be able to get job opportunities and work remotely. Right? So now, the second reward we're talking about is the growing tech ecosystem. Like what we talked about is so we're having different tech hubs in different big cities, not just in Lagos, right? So we're having different tech hub that provides mentorship, that holds training, that can help you grow your whole help you achieve whatever you want to achieve in terms of this whole tech ecosystem. Like we have companies like Andela, we have companies like Tech Assembly. Yeah, we have companies like Tech Academic that can actually help you out to actually grow or to actually grow you, right? And also provide you mentorship in terms of if you're diverting from whatever you're doing and down to tech, right? So with all this, one thing I understand is one of the reward I understand is when you're in tech, right? So you're open to having different ideas from different people, right? You're open to growing your own self, not just technically, but in terms of collaboration, in terms of being supportive to one another, in the whole ecosystem. Like for example, we have we that actually finished, I won't say, sorry, I used the word finished, we that actually moved from tech to other companies. So we have a community that we help each other, right? Not just looking for jobs, right? Help each other troubleshoot issues. If you're working in a different company and you're trying to do a particular task and you're having issues, right? You come to the group, you discuss your issues on the group, and we have somebody that we definitely have somebody that have done that before, right? And have experienced similar errors. And that person should be able to what? That person should be able to go on call with you and help you troubleshoot about issues you're having. So it also helps to build what? A collaborative environment, right? Not just the technical aspect of it, but also the soft skills, right? The oneness, right? The community that you're building. So it helps you build an ecosystem that helps each other to grow in the field, right? So we have limited time. So we talked about solving local challenges. Yeah. So when you're talking about solving local challenges, you understand that when it comes to most of the security issues we have, the security policies or security innovative idea that are being developed in civilized in developing countries, right? Most of them don't have them in our current system here in Nigeria. Example, banks, right? If you watch the banks ecosystem, if the banks are not like the banks in America, right? At the month end of the year, they have to bring out a report of every issue, security flaws they experienced, right? And once they bring out a report, they bring out the loss that they lost to cyber crimes, right? And we don't do that here. I don't know, but I feel we don't do that here in Nigeria. So whenever Zenith Bank loses some money, they hide it. Whenever First Bank loses some money, they hide it to cyber crimes, right? So we don't have that here in Nigeria. If we have that here in Nigeria, you should be able to see the amount of money we keep losing to cyber crimes, right? So if you check our system, if you check the Zenith Bank app, you check the Sterling Bank app, you check the different bank apps, you should be able to pick one or two loopholes, right, in terms of security, right? For example, I think I was working with, I was trying to register was I trying to get a card or trying to get something from Sterling Bank? And I was amazed from Sterling Bank, and I was amazed by the security policies being put together in Sterling Bank, right? The facial recognition, the OTP, the one password, everything was integrated into that particular application. I was very happy to see that, right? Whereby I have to register my ATM card via the app, not going to the bank, right? And that was wonderful. But you can't do that with different other apps. Like you can't do that with Zenith Bank, you can't do that with First Bank. So different banks are bringing different security innovative ideas to solve these challenges in our ecosystem, right? So today, as a tech guy, you can sit down and you can pick up one of the challenges that we're facing, right? And try to design that challenges and being able to implement it. And from there, you see yourself, you're making a lot of money from whatever you have implemented. One thing I have to tell you is the whole tech system is about you thinking out there is a problem, and after that, you solving that problem. So you think there is a problem and you understand this is a problem and you're bringing out the solution to solve that particular problem, right? So the other one is global recognition, right? I know we have different companies. We have companies like Paystack, we have companies like Floating Wave that are doing very well in the whole ecosystem of tech, and we also have not just companies now. We have individuals that have been recognized globally in the whole tech ecosystem. Like I would say, in my own community, in my own tech community, we have different individuals that are being given awards of what they have actually contributed to this whole tech game in Nigeria. We have people like Baba Femi. We have people like Baba Femi that is currently a Microsoft MVP. When I mean MVP, that's the highest recognition in Microsoft, whereby they recognize you for the impact you have created in tech ecosystem in a particular in a country, right? So we have people like Benga. They are actually on this call also. They are our mentors. They are actually on this call also. Benga has also been recognized as one of the forerunners when it comes to tech in Nigeria, and it has a global recognition. And you should be able, with this recognition, they have been able to expand their influence, not just to gain this recognition, but also to use it to grow others in the whole tech field, right? So whatever you see us doing today, they have done it. And whatever we are doing today, we are trying to pass those information to others that are trying to come into this tech field, right? That are trying to come into this whole tech field, right? So one thing you have to know about is personal growth when it comes to tech career. One thing you have to know, I keep saying it, is personal growth. You have to keep learning. You have to keep learning, and you have to know that after learning, you practice, and after you practice, that's get the hands-on knowledge. After the hands-on knowledge, then you have to think in the aspect of leadership. Those are the three key areas. So continuous learning, practice, and also leadership, right? So when I talk about continuous learning, everybody in the tech field today, we are all learning. Nobody is an island. We are all learning because the tech field keeps evolving. It keeps growing, right? Today, you might be very good with ARM templates, right? And tomorrow, ARM templates, when I mean, sorry, I'm using some technical terms, right? So today, let me just use something simple, right? Today, you might be very good in developing softwares using a particular IDE or using a particular programming language, like QBasic, right? And tomorrow, QBasic is gone. You have to learn Fortran. Then you learn Fortran, you know how to use Fortran. The next 3 years, Fortran is gone. You have C#. After C#, the next 3 years, C# is gone. You have what? You have a Java, you have Python, you have PHP, you have Laravel. So those are the different areas when it comes to different tools you can use to develop programs when it comes to developing a software, right? But if you limit yourself to a particular language, to a particular programming language, and say, this is just what I want to know, in the next 3 years, you're out of the market. You'll be laid off. That's one thing you have to understand in the tech field. So you have to keep learning. You have to keep growing yourself. Like those of us that are actually doing cloud engineer today, right? We started from technical support. We have started from technical support, supporting Microsoft customers, helping them troubleshoot their issues. We never knew how it feels to develop an environment, deploy an environment, host an environment in code, and be able to write a pipeline to deploy this environment to a cloud provider, right? So when we did that, when we did technical support for like 2 years, I think most of us have an average of 2 years experience when it comes to technical support. We transited from technical support to a core cloud engineering position, right? From cloud engineering position, we understand the concept better than when we're in technical support. Because technical support, I might just be trying to deploy something and I have an issue. So I raise a support request to Microsoft. Microsoft picks the support request, assign it to an engineer. And engineer understand the error I'm having is maybe I maybe the user I'm trying to perform an action does not have the right permission on their particular resource. The only idea that engineer will just have, okay, it will tell you, this guy you're using to do this does not have the permission over this, right? So you just grant him permission, and that's the knowledge of that engineer. So the knowledge is limited to just one particular field. But you, as a cloud engineer, you are actually you centered around learning everything, all aspects of the cloud, right? Learning all aspects of the cloud and being able to develop and deploy these things to the cloud, right? So that is the difference between a core cloud engineer and just a support person. And that's how it is when you're working, when you're also supporting the software. Like when you're supporting, let's say you're supporting Jumia, right? Jumia is an online e-commerce software, right? And you're trying to do some stuff on Jumia and you have an issue, right? You raise a support request, you reach out to Jumia support system, customer care. Their customer care picks their call, they assign the query to their technical support, and the technical support calls you and try to resolve those issues. So they just resolve the issue. So you're not talking directly with with the core developers of Jumia. You're talking with those that they have trained to support that particular product, right? So those are the two different things, right? So if you're developing and deploying is different from when you're supporting. So understand it. So there should be a sense of having a sense of, since I'm on this field, I have to keep learning. I have to keep growing. I have to keep learning and I have to keep growing, right? So, and when you're learning and you're growing in experience, you're growing in supporting others, you're growing in collaborating with others in the field, right? And that brings you to the mindset of what? A leadership. Like what we talked about, like what Bilal talked about. Bilal is currently a senior DevOps engineer in his company. So before you attain that position as a senior DevOps engineer in a company, you must have some attributes or some characteristics. And one of them is leadership. How were you able to help somebody that has no idea about a particular topic or a particular area in your workspace? How were you able to let somebody learn from you? How are you able to transit knowledge from yourself to another person, right? Those are the different aspects of the different attributes or the different characteristics of what being a leader. So your personal growth must contain continuous learning and also you trying to learn how to lead others, right? So, in conclusion, like what we've talked about the challenges, we've talked about the rewards that comes with this whole tech ecosystem. And one of the challenges we talked about the infrastructural challenges when it comes to power sector, what we talk about the power sector, internet connectivity, fluctuation in our currency, lack of getting quality education, and lack of getting quality centers to actually train ourselves, right? And lack of finances on how to actually spend finances on how to actually get uh, 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 learning institute that is cost friendly to us, right? I know that's some of the challenges we've talked about. And the rewards we talk about is personal growth, having a remote work, having personal growth, uh, then also personal growth, having a remote work, having job opportunities, being able to be successful in your own area, and being able to get what global recognition in that particular field, that particular tech area you have. That particular tech area you have been able to train yourself on. So I like what I said in conclusion, in Nigeria today, we understand that these challenges will definitely hold most of us back and will definitely be a hindrance for us to learn these skills. But I put it to you that once, like what I keep saying, once you've said to yourself that this is what I want to learn, this is what I want to do, and no matter what, right, will be able to succeed in that particular area. So I'll use it. For example, I have a mentor, which is Femi by name, not Femi Adiola, Femi Hamid, right? I have to segregate that for a reason. So Femi Hamid, right? So he said something that every day you can dedicate 1 hour to learning, dedicate 1 hour to training yourself. Once you dedicate 1 hour to training yourself every day, you should be able to learn a new skills in the next 3 months, right? So if you dedicate 1 hour today, you want to become a software developer and you want to learn Python, right? if you dedicate 1 hour to that training every day for Python, in the next 3 months, you'll be able to learn and be good at Python. Not very good, but at least have a knowledge of how Python works. And if you want to learn Azure today, dedicate 1 hour every day in learning Azure, and the next few months you should be able to be very good at Azure, right? So we have, like what I said about, I talked about Biola, I'm coming. I can see your hands, and I can see your hand up, and the meetup, but your hand is up also. I'm coming. We'll pick the questions. I like what I'm talking. We're talking. We have different platform that we can actually use to train ourselves. For those of us that cannot do personal training, that you cannot do personal training, there's no problem. We have areas that you can actually come up. It's actually still cost friendly for you if you don't have a lot of money. It's cost friendly, and you have not just training. We also have mentorship in those areas that can actually mentor you to get to where you want to get to, right? So we have DevOps.ng currently. If you want to learn DevOps, we have Tech Abbey. Tech Abbey is building something very nice currently that you can actually use to train yourself in tech, in learning tech. Those are self areas, right? Self platform you can just go to, and if you want to train yourself on those area on cloud engineers, right? Cloud engineering. Then we have Tech Academic Solution. Tech Academic Solution is also a combined area, or a platform that has a combination of different skills, different individuals with different skills. Talk about DevOps, cloud engineers, software developers, technical support, and talk about it. We have those ones in Tech Academic Solution, and you just pay. The money is not much. If you want to register, you can actually check on us on techacademicsolution.com, right? And you get more information on that, right? So in conclusion, so we'll be going down to Biola, your hands were up before. Any question?
Yeah, I think Temitope's hands were up at first, so maybe we should let him go. Hi,
Okay,
Temitope.
Temitope. Hi,
Good
Temitope.
morning. Hi, good morning.
Good
First
morning.
thing, I just want to say thank you for for this opportunity and platform. My question is to either of you.
Okay.
And this is my question. It's the knowledge you know now, right? Going back, let's say 5 years ago, what is something you would have done differently?
Okay. So the
Yeah,
knowledge I know. Okay.
like with the knowledge, with the base, with your knowledge base now, right? So going back, like let's say 5 years ago when you started, or I don't know, but much when you were like entry level, so what's something that you would have done differently?
Thank you, Tope. I think I can take this.
Okay.
For me personally, one of the biggest mistakes I made when I started was I wanted to do everything. As some of my friends know, I started with Python development. After Python development, I learned JavaScript, I learned HTML. Now, I don't remember any of all those things because I was learning so many things at the same time. So I think the first thing which I would have done or which I would change is to have picked a particular focus as quickly as possible. So if you are starting tech today and you decide, oh, okay, they said web development is easy. Let me start that one. You're already headed on the path of failure. You get. So for me, that's the biggest mistake I made when I started. I wanted to do so many things at the same time. I was learning up to 6 or 7 technologies. That time, my screen would be full of different code editors, and I was doing rubbish because I didn't know what I was doing. But the moment where I could say a big change came in my life was when I started having directed learning. So for instance, I decided that, I wanted to improve as an Azure administrator because that was what my career was heading towards. Then I could immediately start seeing those improvements. And something which Siri mentioned was picking a topic and dedicating 1 hour daily. It sounds simple, but it's very important, because if you dedicate a very little amount of your time daily to something you want to learn, you realize that you become so much better than your colleagues who have not after a short period of time. So I think it's quite important, those two things, the misdirection. That's why I shared that link, roadmap.sh. So with roadmap.sh, you can take a quick look at everything that you want to do and be able to determine that, okay, this is the path I want to follow. You get, so once that's the number one thing I would do. Find my path, focus on that path. No matter what anybody says, I know that that's the path I want to go to, and that's the path I want to become a master of. Because many of us in technology are jack of all trades, master of none. If you tell them, do you know Kubernetes? Yes. Do you know OpenStack? Yes. But when you get to the interview, an OpenStack interview, a real OpenStack interview, you find out that most of us will flounder. You get, so that is the major thing that I think I would change in my career path, that focus at the very beginning and that part. So I'm sure many people I've tried mentoring a couple of people where I've seen they themselves don't have that direction. They mainly just want to do everything. So, and you have to be able to zero everything, because Siri is doing something in Azure now doesn't mean I have to work in Azure. I have to work where I feel I'm best suited to and become the best possible person I can be in that field. So that is generally how I would have changed. Like I would have changed like 7, 8 years ago. That's it for me. Thank you.
One more question, and I hope I'm not taking too much of time. So this might sound a little bit nosy, but so what's your prediction in terms of trends, in terms of the future space in tech in Nigeria? Like what can you predict is going to be tech like in Nigeria in, let's say, 5 years, 10 years time?
Okay, I think I could answer that as well. So within the next 5 years now, so I think it depends on, for me personally, I think it depends on the direction the country is headed towards. As a developing country, we have a lot of problems to solve. But people aren't willing to invest their hard-earned money into the economy because they are not sure. There's a lot of uncertainty. So to be honest, predicting is a bit hard. And even if you had said in the global space, I'd have said, okay, maybe AI. Everybody's heading towards AI. I don't know if you saw what Tesla presented yesterday or the day before yesterday. We're actually seeing robots that are able to communicate with us, even though some people are saying that they control them from afar. But that's by the way. We are seeing robots that can be able to communicate with us, actually behave like humans. So that is where the world is going to. That's why you see stocks of companies like NVIDIA growing massively, because they want those AI chips. So, and because of that, that's where the world is headed towards. So I was telling a friend of mine, Obina, recently, he's always talking about supermarkets. I'm telling you, in like 10, 15 years time, it's very possible all those blue collar, brown collar jobs will be non-existent, because it's become simple. If there is robo taxi, why would the owner of a car rather employ maybe Siri to become the taxi driver rather than having a robot that won't collect a bribe, won't do anything? It's just a task you give it out to do. So the world is going towards AI. But Nigeria as a whole, as a developing country, we have a lot of factors that are going to influence where we go to. So a lot of tech startups fail because of greed and various things. But in honest the direction Nigeria is headed, it depends wholly a lot on where the country itself is headed. So I think that is what I would say regarding
that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Biola, and thank you, Temitope, for that question. So do we have any questions from anyone? So there was a question from what was his name? So there was a question from Prince. There was a question from Prince, right? So Prince is asking, what is your advice for a 30 plus years old who just finished CCNA and getting frustrated with looking for remote roles, engineering background, and can't start from an Intel role in tech expert due to responsibilities? So So I think I should take that. So if you have CCNA, right, one thing you have to understand is experience. You need to start from somewhere. Everybody starts from somewhere. You need to start from somewhere. You have to gain experience. So not just having the certification alone, but you need to add an experience to it, right? So in every aspect of it, there is a sacrifice one has to make. A sacrifice one has to make, and each and every one of us on this call that has done tech, that is currently in tech, right? We have one way or the other made sacrifice. Sorry, Adekunle, your mic is disturbing. We have one way or the other make sacrifice in the field, right? And one thing with this whole tech thing is does not cover age, does not tell how old you are, right? As far the company can see that you have something upstairs to offer, or you show an attitude of continuous learning, or you have the mindset to grow, definitely some will give you a chance to start up with, right? I think I have a few examples. I have a friend that when we left school then, he went to Lagos. He went to Lagos before any of our peers, right? And the first company he worked for, he just had a CCNA certification, just like you, Prince, a CCNA certification, and went there without no experience. He talked to the CEO of the company. He went for an interview, talked to the CEO of the company. The CEO of the company saw the attitude and drive of this guy, and he gave him the chance, right? And before the guy left that company to another company, the CEO was proud of him, right? Of what he could achieve in the space of 3 years. So if you have that mindset, I know we all have responsibilities, or we all have something we're doing, but definitely you have to put in work. According to Odimodu Black, you guys show workings. You have to put in work, right? You have to put in work, and you have to put in time, and you have to put in experience. You have to gain experience in the field. So before you go for remote work, nobody will employ you as a remote worker out of Nigeria without having at least an experience. And where are you going to get that experience from? Is from Nigeria. So look inwardly first. Look for a place you can actually use that knowledge of gain from CCNA to do something. So once you're done with that, once you're going in that field, you can start applying for remote work. I don't know if that has been able to answer your questions.
So also, Siri, sorry. I think at the beginning, the aim shouldn't actually be necessarily remote work.
Yes. Yeah.
The aim should be becoming the best possible person you can. So once you are the best, then you'd see. In fact, they'll start contacting you. They'll start messaging you on LinkedIn. Bros, how far? Can you whatever? You see them, they'll start messaging you. And from there, step by step. But the problem is when you get there, you realize that sometimes you are not competent enough. You are not at that level yet. So you always have to be prepared for that opportunity. If you are not prepared for that opportunity and it comes, you find yourself getting disappointed, and that is what you don't want. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, yes, you actually said something. I think when you're just talking, Bill, I just remembered something. So there was a guy that actually trained with us in my last cohort, right? And in tech academic solution. So he trained with us. And after the training, we also do LinkedIn optimization, right? So we're able to optimize his LinkedIn profile and work on his CV, right? And after that, in less than 1 month or so, he was actually contacted on LinkedIn, right? He was contacted on LinkedIn for a role, and currently he's undergoing the interview process, right? And the role he was contacted for was the role that most of us were actually looking for when we were in Tech Expert. Then, or we were looking for Upwork gigs, right? So we're looking for we're looking for Upwork gigs, right? So he was contacted with this gig, right? And he's undergoing the interview, the whole interview process, right? So you can see that when you learn, when you train yourself, when you learn, and like what Biola talked about, your CV, and you're able to optimize your CV, right? And you have platform like LinkedIn that cuts across the whole globe, right? You have people reaching out to you. You don't have to start applying for jobs. Most of the jobs we have today, or most of these jobs, my peers, the people in my community have today, they reach out to you on LinkedIn, right? So it's just for
Sorry
you
to
to
cut you
learn.
short, Tim.
Okay.
I want to say something. That factor of you don't have to apply. I personally don't agree with that because there were some times in my life I would apply for 50 jobs per day. You have to apply like you really want this job. Because the truth of the matter is that if you don't apply, not everybody will be able to find your what they call it, your LinkedIn profile. So with when you apply, they'll be able to take a look at that your optimized LinkedIn profile. So you have to apply. You have to take it. In fact, if you are looking for a job and you say, okay, in the next 6 months, I want to get a job. For the next 6 months, for me personally, what I do typically when I wake up, I'm fond of doing Microsoft's question and answers. I first do that. Then I also go online, I check for job applications because it's important. If you are saying wherever you are, you must not be stagnant. Whether you're doing well or you're doing it, you still have to be planning for the next step. So you have to apply. That's important. So don't have it in mind that if they optimize your resume, you don't apply. You will still apply because Siri may have optimized someone's resume for someone and they called in. You, 2 years, they will not call you. So you have to have that in mind as well.
So Biola, why I said so sometimes you don't really have to apply, right? Why I said that is because most recruiters, when they reach out to you directly on LinkedIn, so with the skills you have, your chances of getting that job, right, is 70 to 80% when they reach out to you. Okay, let me know getting the job. Your chances of getting an interview for that job is 70 to 80%. Right? So, but when you keep applying is good. Why I say applying is good, and why applying is good on LinkedIn is because when you start applying, there's an algorithm on LinkedIn. When you keep applying for a job, a particular job on LinkedIn, and there's a recruiter, and the recruiter searches for Azure DevOps, Azure Cloud Engineers on LinkedIn, your name will pop out, right? Because the algorithm will have understand that you are looking for a job, right? And it will pop out on it when someone research makes your hand is up.
Yeah, so this is not really a question. I know I'm not one of the moderators, but I just wanted to add this in terms of making applications on LinkedIn. I see some people on LinkedIn, like some people who just got into DevOps and they are desperate to get a job. They apply to jobs that are not really open to this region or like this part of the world. You see, maybe like an Indian putting out application for somebody in Harvard or maybe like Mumbai. You see somebody in Nigeria saying, "Can I apply?" Like, I see this. For over a year, I see that comment. Can I apply? Can I apply? Jobs in like India and Mumbai, it's not really meant for you. Not the kind of jobs you apply to. Yes, they might say, okay, EMEA, yeah, we are within EMEA. You can apply to jobs like that. Or when you say Mumbai on site and you want to apply, nobody will respond to you. You're just wasting your time.
Yeah. Yes, thank you very much, Ajabs, for that also. So I think we have actually finished up our time.
So I
And
think Sorry, Siri, there's
Okay.
one more question. So when you wake up, you do Microsoft question and answer. So it's just open source, so typical Microsoft question and answer page. So I go there, I answer questions. I do it because I like helping people. So questions that I see over there that I like or that I know, because you can't obviously know everything. I go there in the morning, I answer questions. It's not for a job, it's just to improve my skills. Siri does it as well once in a while. Baba Femi does it as well. So once you go there, in fact, sometimes you will not even be aware of a new technology. Once you go there, you see people asking questions about this technology, and all of a sudden, you go and research it and you have that knowledge. So that's what I actually meant. It's not really like a job. So I hope that answers it, David.
Okay, yeah. So can you share the link of the open source platform? Okay, no problem. We'll share the link. Bella, so you can share the link with David for answering those questions, right? On Microsoft platform. That's just search on Google, Microsoft Q&A. Yes, thank you, Bella, for that. So I think we'll have actually come to the end of today's webinar. So I just want to pass an information that this is going to be occurring, the webinars like this are going to be occurring twice in a month. We'll be doing this for twice in a month. And what we'll be doing this, we'll be touching around different areas of tech. We'll have different guests that will be coming up to the webinar, and they'll talk on how to navigate into if you want to learn programming into Java, if you want to learn Python into Python, if you want to learn Python, navigate into Python, if you want to learn Azure, how to navigate into Azure, if you want to learn different areas in tech. So we have, like what I said, we have a very large community, right, of peers that has knowledge of these things, right? So we'll be inviting them. We'll be inviting them every 2 weeks. Once, that's twice in a month. We'll come, we'll have a talk, right? And we'll have a talk, and they will talk to everybody and train you, not just not training per se, but just give you an elementary knowledge of how to start in that particular field, right? So for this, you can also reach out, follow us up on our different channels. Follow us on our Biola. You can post your YouTube link on the chat. You can follow us up on our different channels. Tech Abby on YouTube, Tech Abby on Instagram. Then you can follow up me also on YouTube, Learn Tech with Siri, and you can so follow me up on Instagram, Siri Cloud, right? So those are different platforms we currently have on YouTube, and those are different platforms we currently have on YouTube and Instagram, right? So we'll be doing this every 2 months, and these are the channels we'll be using to pass out information to everybody that actually found this interesting, right? So everybody actually found this interesting, right? So let's do this, follow up, and more information will be passed around to you all. So I want to thank you all for joining. I want to thank Biola for creating time for this, and both of us is definitely going to be your hosts for a very long time, and we'll be inviting different personnels, different engineers from different fields to come down here and lecture us on how to grow in each of these areas in tech. So whatever, if you see where you're interested on, you can actually sign up for the webinar, and we'll pass out information to you. So for me, I'll say thank you for joining, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right. Thank you, guys. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.